Jen Dice here with Status Coup, and we are reporting from Kensington here in Philadelphia. There are rumored sweeps today by the police. We don't know if that's happening. They say it's not any longer. But either way, it happens all the time. And so folks are out here protesting for a variety of reasons. There are kind of two sides of protesters here. Tell folks why you're here protesting today.
I am here to just hopefully make sure that anybody that comes out does not disturb or disrupt or harass anybody that is housing insecure or homeless on the streets. I myself have been homeless in Kensington. I am now the founder of a nonprofit where we advocate for harm reduction and we offer resources to people. So I just have a different perspective. I know what it feels like to be displaced. I know what it feels like to kind of be in a place in your life where you're not sure what's going on, and also to be addicted. I know that not all people that are homeless are addicted, but a large majority of people in Kensington are. And so what we try to do is just show up for them because they're our friends and we love them and we want to support them in any way that we can. Whatever that looks like in their journey, we want to be there to kind of help out. I've also lived in Kensington as a sober person, and I do understand that the community, the residential community, needs advocacy. However, I think that it needs a lot more advocacy than people showing up and disrupting somebody's space where they are currently living. That's just my view, and I will always come down here and try and help people out in every way that I can. We distribute food to the community. It's not just to homeless people. So we're just here to show support, spread some love and light. That's about it.
If you're comfortable with it, sharing more about your story, kind of what led you here as a houseless person in Kensington, as much or as little as you want to share, because I think a lot of people don't understand, if they haven't been in that situation, they don't understand how it happens, or they feel like it's someone's fault. So explain to people from your perspective.
I can honestly say, the pull for me was the drugs. I came down here and I got stuck. I was so heavily addicted to drugs. There was an anxiety when I was away from the space where I could get them. I was filled with fear and didn't want to get sick, so I just kind of stayed, blisters on my feet, no socks, staying in trap houses, doing all the crazy things, but I just needed to be close to my drug of choice. That was how I ended up coming down here. I also, I got sober because I went out of a second-story window, and that's how I got sober. The reason I came back was because I have so many friends that are still down here, and I know what it's like to just need a sandwich for the day. And I know that some people say, oh, why do you give out food? Nobody comes to Kensington for the free sandwiches. Nobody's here for that. People are in a really low, desperate place. I can attest to that because I was in that space, and really, it's their human right to do drugs. We're just here to love them through it. A lot of people get stuck here. If they don't have money to get in and out, they just kind of stay. So,
talk about, if you can, the kind of systemic issues in this country, the economic inequality, the income gaps, the things that kind of lead people to become addicted to drugs or to become houseless.
Well, my journey, I worked in corporate, and I was prescribed Percocets for carpal tunnel, and that just kind of very quickly went out of control. I could no longer get Percocets, and I had to start getting things on the street, which led to heroin because it's cheaper, which led to a life of very unsafe, very impulsive, and criminal behavior. And then that's just kind of what happened. I think that some people start doing drugs when they're very young. I did not. I was wearing a business suit and I did not have any idea what I was getting involved in. I trusted my doctor, and then I found that I was addicted to it. And at that point, I kind of went from 0 to 100 very, very quickly, and my journey led me on a very self-destructive path, which led me to Kensington.
Do you feel like the city of Philly does enough to help folks, or even on a wider scale? Some people are happy now that Trump is out and Biden is in. Is there going to be help coming? Is there enough help now?
So I work with a lot of different city officials, with the Department of Health, and I have some friends that work at OHS, and I have friends that work in a bunch of different areas. I will say that this problem isn't something that's going to take like one specific department. This has been decades. This has been building for decades, and with the opioid epidemic, and now it's not even dope anymore. It's tranquilizer. I don't have the answers in a political aspect or a judicial space. I don't have the answers to how you can clean it up and what you can do. Our organization tries to do it one person at a time with where they're at and what they're ready for. The individuals that I've worked with that work for the city genuinely want to help. They do. They don't have as much funding. I think COVID really slowed things down, and that makes sense, obviously. I can't speak to the city in general. I can speak to the humans that I work with, and they're fucking awesome. Ooh, sorry for cursing. And like there's a lot of tension between the police force and the community down here. But when I've worked with certain police officers, I've had good and bad experiences. So I try not to generalize that to like the city has to do this and like the police are doing this. I think we're all trying to work at it with minimal amounts of funding and resources, and I think as we try to increase that, we should see a change. I think that right now the real estate developers in Kensington deciding to gentrify the neighborhood and beautify the neighborhood now that they want to make a bunch of money, I think it's calculated. I think a lot of things are unfair for the community that's lived here for decades and has never seen this kind of dramatic effort to improve the community. But I don't think that that's the city. I think that that's real estate developers. I think that's backed by money.
How do you think that COVID has impacted the houseless situation, the drug addiction situation here? Are there more who are houseless now?
So yeah, during COVID I lived at Frankfurt and Somerset, and there was it was kind of a strange situation. You had all the city shut down. You had everything shut down. You had a lot of people that were, dependent upon stores being open, and if you're doing survivor sex work, you no longer have clients. If you commit retail thefts to feed your addiction, you no longer have that resource. So there was a very aggressive climate in Kensington, and the money was just shut down for a few weeks, if not a couple of months, and then immediately everybody got hit with PUA money. So there were people that were sober and with a lack of resources because meetings were closed and connection wasn't there. They relapsed if you're a recovering person and you get $4,000 in your bank account, that can be a huge trigger. So we saw a lot of people that were in recovery relapse very quickly and come right to Kensington and get stuck. You saw a community that was underserved while we were in quarantine. Like they couldn't pay their bills, they couldn't get food. So you have the residential community with a lack of resources, you have the homeless community, and then you have this increased recovery community that's a high percentage of relapsing and coming to Kensington. So the streets were flooded with people, and there was no resources. Nobody was coming to Kensington to do harm reduction. Nobody was distributing food anymore. And so it was just a powder keg. And then, of course, we had the protests that started in Center City, and they didn't really show it, but in Kensington, they lasted for months, and it was rioting. They blew up all the ATM machines. I was on Kensington Ave when they blew up the Rainbow, and they were just kind of rioting for a long period of time because everybody was at an emotional breaking point. It was just a very scary time for the city, I think. Hopefully now things are opening up and more resources will be available for everybody, the residents as well as the people that are housing insecure.
A couple more questions, and so right now, let me show folks, there are protesters on this side of the street and protesters on the other side of the street. And in speaking to folks on the other side of the street, they're protesting the fact that there are houseless folks in front of their homes because, those folks have houses here, I guess, and there are no spots for the houseless to go. So how do you feel when you see that kind of counter-protest?
Angry, sad. I think that I understand being in a community and not wanting it to be potentially dangerous all the time. I do understand that aspect of it. However, I also understand that these humans don't have anywhere to go. And so coming here to protest that they have nowhere to go is not helpful. Go to City Hall, ask for more homeless shelters to be open, ask for more beds to be open. Our nonprofit has 4 houses and we take people in off the street. So more people doing that, offering housing to individuals, whether they want to be sober, whether they just need a homeless shelter, whether they need transitional living. We need to allocate funding towards that, so that, and effort needs to be allocated towards those kinds of resources, not just displacing them. So like, I was in Emerald City and there was the Lehigh encampment and they shut all that down, and now, the city cried and said that they were going to, clean up the encampments. They're still here. They didn't go anywhere because they weren't given anywhere to go. There was, right outside where I used to live on Frankfurt and Somerset, there was a large encampment there, and people had really built up places. There was cardboard houses that had tarps on it, and they were insulated, and they just came and took it all away from them. So you're creating a more vulnerable community when they can't be together and have the safety in numbers, and when the neighborhood is reacting in a violent way to some of them. So this kind of, protest against humans is going to encourage violence, I think, and that's my fear. So I just want to show up and let them know that, we're here to support and love you, and make sure that nobody gets violent. The only thing I can say is that, everybody kind of has an agenda when they come down. Not everybody. Some people come down here with an agenda, and I think that there needs to be a space where we just kind of accept humans where they are, and love them unconditionally. Radical love is a huge thing, and we have to respect their human right to do what they want to do. And the more that we could do that and give them the resources that they need to be on whatever spot in their journey that they're in, I feel like there's going to create more unity and less division. So, the judgment of where they are and what they're doing and how they're doing it, I understand it. I get why people get that way, but I know what it's like to be in that space and to be really scared and not know what you want to do next. And the people that loved me regardless saved my life. The people that shouted at me and pointed the finger and judged me just made me hate myself more. So, just fucking radical love through connection, bro.